they like to come too and see it. So you're at Museum Minds. Oh my gosh, it's great. I have to tell you, we are so incredibly excited because we are celebrating our 1-year birthday. Oh my gosh. So this is a topic that we actually talked about in March of 24, way back when. If you were here in March of 24, you are officially crowned an OG, and you've been with us for 12 whole sessions. It's been lovely and wonderful. Rainey and I have done such amazing collaboration with everybody who has attended. We have seen, oh, I wish I would have done the math ahead of time. But so many of our sessions have like over 100 registrants. So we're looking at like the thousands of people that have come to Museum Minds, who have been with us. And we're just so excited to connect you all together and say, let's learn about museums together. So that's what this museum meetup is all about. Connecting people, sharing information, and having a good time. Maybe a couple laughs, some good stuff. So the makeup of today is we take a couple minutes in the top of the call just to get housekeeping done, get people in, things like that. And then we take about 25 minutes every single session to teach something. I have a background in teaching. Rainey has a background in teaching. So we always love to share a little bit of information. And we also kind of thought back to like the times when we all were at home in COVID times. And we used to have like all these little micro learning opportunities out there. And then they went away. And we were like, we still want to learn little things, but in tidbits of content. So that's what Museum Minds is about, a little bit of content. Then we kind of take a breath, get a drink of hot tea or something like that for a minute or two. And then we go ahead and open the platform up for networking and Q&A. We want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to connect with other people. We have a glorious hive mind of people attending this call. So we really want to make sure that you can connect and also that you can tap into all the knowledge that's here waiting for you when you have questions, whether it's about today's topic or it's about museums in general. So we always want to leave that last half of the call open for that connection to happen. All right, so now we get to introduce ourselves. Who are we? Rainey, do you want to go first since I've been doing all this chatting so far?
Yes, I would love that. And my photos first, so that makes sense. So my name is Rainey Robison. My business is Neptune Sugar, and I am a marketing agency that specifically helps arts and culture organizations better reach their audience through elevated marketing. So, and I just wanted to mention too, from earlier in terms of Museum Minds, Beth and I went through a mastermind a couple years ago, and we met, and immediately connected because we both had museum backgrounds, and we wanted to create this space to have these conversations and network. And it's so interesting because we've had anywhere from I think we have 28 people to 110 or something like that. And I actually kind of prefer the smaller ones in some ways because we can have a lot more interaction in the Q&A. So this is like a really perfect sized group today, I think. So that's my long introduction. Beth, take it from here.
Awesome. I am Beth Housewort, and I am the owner and founder of Inspired Impact. I do museum consulting based on my 25 years of experience in children's museums, doing a lot of education and exhibits, as well as operations. So I really kind of go out, talk about guest experience, how your museum works, do a lot of coaching. And the biggest thing that's been happening lately that I've had so much doing is like cold eyes reviews of museums with evaluation and feedback, and then following up with training and all kinds of other really cool opportunities for accountability for museums to make the change that I'm suggesting. So it's been a ton of fun. So good. And I get to travel. It's great. I'm based here in Southwest Florida. Rainey's in Wyoming. So we are cross nation collaboration here, but also we go all over the place. We have a good time. All right. So let's get down to it. We're already 10 minutes in, and we're going to talk about community partnerships today. There's so much going on right now that we really have to start digging in and thinking about what is in our local resources, because we're not always sure about all the resources that are out there right now. Without diving into that whole thing, I am a person who fully I will be the biggest cheerleader forever for community partnerships. As a nonprofit, we can't do it alone. We have to call out to our friends for lots of different ways. Maybe there's talent out there that we want to connect with. Maybe there's a topic area that we want to connect with. Maybe there's some money out there that we want to connect with. So today what I did is I kind of put together 5 quick questions that you can ask to really start to determine if this community partner is the right fit for your museum. Because a lot of times people will come to you once they know who you are, and their motives might not be always great, but you're going to start to filter that through. Sometimes you also have an idea and you say, oh my goodness, that partner out there is a really big name that has a lot of influence. We should be partnered with them to kind of glom onto that. But you got to think long and hard about some of these partnerships. So I just wanted to really simmer it down and say, ask yourself these 5 questions to see if you should even take the next step when it comes to a community partnership. It's quick and easy. And what we did too is put together a document that has all 5 of these questions. It's a fillable document that you can use when you're thinking about things, just to get your ideas out on paper. And then we also have a couple other documents too that we're going to give you just because you came here today for good resources. All right. So number 1, first question. Sorry. How will this push our mission? Okay. So as nonprofit organizations, we are always driving and starting our thought process with mission. Yes, we may sometimes think, oh, this would be financially amazing. This might be a great political or publicity partnership. But then we have to recalibrate and we have to say, is it right for our mission? So that's always your first question. And with each one of the questions, of course, I have story time because I love story time. And I love telling you about successful stories where this really did work and it happened amazingly. All right. So not only are you going to be able to say, this is our mission to your partners, but they're going to get a preview of what your museum is going to be like if you're emerging museums. Maybe it's a new community that you haven't impacted yet. So really starting with the mission helps you to give a preview of the museum to your partners. Here's one of the friends right here, Children's Museum of Central Oregon. They did this amazing partnership, a big crew going to festivals as they were getting their name out there, bringing real life exhibits to these festivals, not just saying, oh, here's a marketing table. Sorry. With paraphernalia and flyers and things like that. But this is what we do. We have interactive play experiences. So why not bring some of those interactive play experiences, right? On top of that, they're showing a really awesome opportunity for brand recognition. Get your logo out there, be in these festivals, make sure that everybody knows who you are. Once you've decided on what your branding is going to be, get it out there. That's leading with your mission, making sure people recognize you. I'm working on a project right now where we're creating a mobile museum. And right off the bat, first things first, what does the wrap of this trailer for the mobile museum look like? Because it's going to be the first experience a lot of places have with this museum because it's emerging. They don't even have a building yet. They don't even have a staff yet, but they're getting their name out there and they're leading with their mission of interactive play. Wow, there's a thing going on here today. Please excuse me. All right. The other thing down there, the other picture that I have right there is a museum that I used to work at, the Children's Museum of Naples here in Naples, Florida. And we had a partnership, and we did all kinds of really cool nanotechnology stuff. And we went out to libraries, and it was a great opportunity for us to take our interactive stuff, science-based, STEAM-based activities, and elevate the library experience. So we had these family nights at libraries. It was so, so fun. All right, next up, number two. How will this build our audience? So as you're filtering down, yes, it's mission focused. Oh my gosh, it's a great connection there. Sorry. And we're going to build our audience. Is this going to be in numbers in building the audience? Is this going to be breaking into new communities? There are lots and lots and lots of opportunities here to build your audience. So 2 good examples here. Up at the top, Children's Museum of Naples, we had an access pass. And these were passes that were available at every single local library in 2 different counties. Our building was almost at the county line between Lee County and Collier County. And we partnered up with the libraries and we said, hey, can we provide 2 memberships to be checked out at any point in time? The system got all set up, ready to go, based on printed receipts so that people don't have to bring anything back. They don't physically have to check anything out. But those passes were good for 4 people to come to the museum for free within like a 7-day period. Fantastic. A great way to break into a new audience. These are people that are doing interactive learning things by going to the library, visiting local resources, and having a good time. And this is a way for you to extend that reach, grab onto the audience that's already going to the library, and then have them visit your space. There's no threshold that's keeping them back. Or I should say, there's a minimized threshold that's keeping them back because it's no longer an economic or financial burden for them to come. Whether they are a family with low socioeconomic status, or they're a person who's curious and just doesn't want to put down the money to come and see something because maybe they think their kids are too old, or maybe they think their kids are too young. So it was a great way to partner. The beauty of that, and you'll see in some of the other questions too, is that we use that to get some funding to cover it, which was great. Another opportunity there is Great River Children's Museum. Again, another emerging museum that I'm headed off to next month to do a whole big series with them. But they started out too with this outreach opportunity. They got to go into some underserved areas with their programming in an effort to really provide a lift to that area. And again, to lead with mission-focused interactive learning opportunities in a brand new audience. So this is a nice opportunity, that second question. How will it build your audience? All right. So here's our third question. What is the role of this partner? And this is where things can take a drastic left turn if you don't think about it in advance. So you'll see down at the bottom, don't worry, we're sending you a template. There is something that you're going to get today that is a guideline. And It gives you the opportunity. It says, as a museum, we will provide XYZ. As a partner, you will provide XYZ. So roles are very defined in this agreement, in that we will come out and we will do 4 outreach visits for you for a class of 20 children, over the course of the dates of April 1st all the way until May 30th. You will provide to us a clean and tidy space. You will provide staff members for oversight. You will also provide any pictures that you take, things like that. So understanding that this is a nice opportunity to really distinguish what that role is between the partners. You don't want to go into this with them saying, oh, but you always bring the blue blocks. And then you show up with Kiva blocks. And they're like, but wait, we were expecting something totally different. No. Keep it clear, straight from the beginning. You want to make sure that they know what your role is, but also this is not a one-sided thing. Partnerships are to be equally beneficial partnerships. If you're doing a one-sided thing, you better be getting paid. But if you're saying we're a partner, then that means they're doing something too that benefits you. So really making sure that you distinguish what those roles are, have them in writing, people sign them with dates and times and contact information, making sure that's super duper clear of what is the role of your partner. Question number 3. All right, now we're going into question number 4. Will it be financially beneficial? I bet you every nonprofit thinks this should be number 1, but it's not. Mission focused is always number 1. But you have to remember that financial is always going to play a role in what your partnerships are. And then again, I'm saying here, remember, financial benefit isn't always cash from the partner. Because you can partner with another organization to elevate your grant proposal and get more money. You can partner up with an underserved school in an effort to get a program funded by the community foundation or something like that. So understand, it's not always that your partner is bringing the money. So let's talk about a couple of these. Again, here's our NANO program over here. That was an outreach program, Museum Without Walls. We're partnering with the library to bring them some programming. That moves into Access Pass, where they then are providing the audience for this. And the audience is seeing that rack card and information right at checkout every single time they check out about the museum. So here we go. That's a nice, equally beneficial partnership that we're going along in. I give a little bit, you give a little bit. We're happy. This is talent. This is time. All right, now here comes the treasure side of things. We were able to then offer EBT and WIC memberships to people coming into the museum based on the zip code data that we had from our Access Pass. And we could then justify why it was important that these underserved communities had membership programs that were funded. So thinking about that is, that your partnerships can be one-offs. But if you do them right and you're collecting data all along, these freebies become qualifiers for grants. Keeping all of that information, zip codes, who's there, testimonials, quotes, you can do all kinds of amazing things. School district data, school districts are way, way happy to help you when it comes to those types of things too. Or at least ours are, because we know people there and they're great. So understanding too, with that question, Is it financially beneficial? Number 4, it's not always money from them. I think everybody's getting that one, right? And look at those cute kids. Oh my gosh, these are 2 little boys. They're hanging out at Betty Bryn. Oh my gosh, in the service station, which Betty Bryn no longer makes. Those kids are now 16 and 18 years old. They're mine. So, last question. Does it feel right? You cannot neglect your gut, because there are many times when you can go through all of those questions and everything seems just right, and it just doesn't feel right. So you can't forget about that side of things, knowing that oftentimes your gut is feeling something that is a precursor to something bigger. So making sure that you're taking a moment to say, does it feel right? Ask your team, does it feel right? When you're in a partner meeting with the other party, have the courage to say, does this feel right to you? What are your concerns about this partnership? I can see lots of amazing wins, but I also want to get ahead of things that might cause problems. What are your concerns? Because my concern is X. And that's where my gut is saying, I'm not sure. Let's get it all out in the air in the beginning. Is it right for the local gun range to sponsor something at the Children's Museum? Right? Sarah, I saw your eyebrows go up really big. Right, exactly, exactly. That was a question that we had to answer at our Children's Museum because they approached us wanting to be a sponsor. So what do we do? Like, our gut was like, what? Are you kidding me? Why would a gun range sponsor something in the Children's Museum? It just doesn't seem like a good fit. And then we had that conversation. It just seems weird. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure about this whole situation. But then we found a way for them to help sponsor an adult-only event.
Perfect.
Was it a good fit? It was sponsorship. That was the development team opportunity to make that choice. But it was one of those things that we really had to dig down and think about it. And is it the right fit? Everything could look great, but it just doesn't feel right. So this is an example of one of those things that was the opposite. It was a partnership that my heart just was glowing and gushing with goodness. And I was like, oh my gosh, I will forever talk about this partnership. The VPK program in our local district, the voluntary pre-kindergarten, all the 4-year-olds that were going to kindergarten readiness classes, sponsored by our government, to get them ready. They came to us and they said, can we get our kids in for some free field trips? And of course, in the nonprofit mindset, you're like, yes, of course, come, all the children. We want to make sure that every kid can come in and have a field trip with their class. This would be so amazing. And then I thought to myself, sometimes when people get things for free, they don't necessarily value it as much. So how can we have a really like fun way for them to give back to us? So we were getting ready to put up our art gallery, and we had all kinds of really amazing art opportunities. And I said, how about this? I want every one of the classrooms that is going to be coming on a field trip to make me a piece of art. And then I put my little creative mind together and cut exactly the same size squares. I think they were 4x4 squares. And I said to the teachers, I looked at their curriculum map and like all this stuff. And I said, I want you to do a monochromatic rubbing of something. nature, something in your classroom, whatever it might be. So we're teaching a nice art opportunity. We're teaching color recognition. We're teaching about textures. You know, we're teaching about numbers because all of them are the same size, shapes, all kinds of really cool opportunities here. So every single one of those colors, it represents two to four classrooms, and they had to stick to their color. And it made this amazing collaborative art piece that I reused multiple times in different parts of the museum. So again, a creative way to make a partnership. They got a free field trip for every one of the classrooms that participated. I got some really, really amazing collaborative art that I too then could use to highlight our partnership and how we're serving underserved children. It was amazing. It was so awesome. And then later, I had a whole collection of those in my office as like a highlight. It was amazing. I loved it. So good. And this right down here, this is the old location of Young at Art in Davie, Florida. Oh my gosh, I miss it so much. They've now transitioned into a different location, but this was as you drove in, and it just said, I love you. So if your partnership feels like an I love you moment, you're trusting your gut. It's good. It's good. All right, so here's our 5 quick questions. How will this push our mission? How will this build our audience? What is the role of this partner? Will it be financially beneficial on different levels? And does it feel right? So when you're going through all of those questions and you're starting to think about partnerships, this gets your mind started in the right direction. Okay? So like we said, you're going to get a 1-pager in the email that comes tomorrow. You also can download this right now. Rainey is going to go ahead and put the link in the chat so that you can download these 5 questions in a fillable document. It's all on Google Form or Google Documents. So just make a copy, then you can keep it for yourself of these 5 quick questions. And then also we are offering to you, you can see I kind of described it in the content, this partnership agreement. One of the caveats that I'm going to tell you based on my own mistake, because yeah, I make mistakes too. Do not call this an MOU. Do not call this a memorandum of understanding unless you intend to send it through a lawyer. Because when I partnered with the school district and it was called a memorandum of understanding, there was so many hoops that we had to jump through, and we had to rewrite this thing 16 different times in an effort to be legally binding as an MOU. And that's not what I'm looking for. Maybe you are, but I wasn't. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So I rewrote it and I said, this is an outreach partnership agreement. You're agreeing, I'm agreeing, yes. And we're not seeing this as a legally binding document. But you'll see there too, the museum is going to do these things. Our partner is going to do these things. Here are the actual dates that we agree upon, the number of classrooms, the number of students. And then there's a back page too that has, you know, when they came for an evening event, what are the email addresses of the actual teachers that are going to be involved? And now let's sign and date this thing so we understand. All right. That's that. What's coming next? Oh my gosh. You guys are going to love this one. It's so good. Rainey and I were just talking about it and we were like, what should we call this session for the next Museum Minds for next month in May 14th? Rainey is going to present for us. So Rainey, you want to give us a little preview of what you're going to talk about next month?
Yes, absolutely. So I have a kind of interesting background in that I started in marketing and then I got a photography degree and worked in the fine arts and then went back to marketing. But I am a professional photographer and I'm really excited to just present some really easy fixes that people can do for their museum photography, whether it's for social media or for events. And they really are simple and they will significantly elevate your photography. So I see things all the time where I think, oh, if they would just do this and it would just look so amazing. So hopefully it will be a really fun and exciting and well-attended event, but we would love to see you next month in May. And Beth, you're going to be at the Children's Museum Conference, right? So hopefully, you know, if you guys are going to that conference, we can get a recording for you. But those of you who are not going to that conference, we would love to see you at this next event. So it should be a lot of fun.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Rainey.
Yeah.
It's a reiteration of, even if you can't make it, register for Museum Minds. Because we
Exactly.
always send a recording of this call the next day.
Yes.
So even if you think the topic is really good, but you're going to be at interactivity and you're going to come to my session. Yeah. Okay. An aside. We're doing a session all about juggling with finesse and floor team members having many, many jobs. And then I'm doing another session that's all about unscripted creativity on your museum floor. So, personal commercial when it comes to my sessions. Come to them, be amazed. Meet my cool museum friends that we're partnering with.
Are we
So
competing now? Are we competing? Like, come to Beth's event.
I have to look at well, but they can register.
I know, I'm just
For
teasing. No,
museum.
and actually I did just put the registration link in there. So whether you can be there or not, please register and we'll make sure that you at least get a recording or are informed about when it is.
Right, exactly. Ooh, somebody already put in there. It made me request access to the partnership agreement. Oh my gosh, I will absolutely change that while we're in the Q&A because I copied it, you know, added another version of it from when we did it back last year. So I'll just change the access on that and you'll be able to get it. We'll make sure that we put that link up there again at the end of the call when the access has been granted for anyone with the link. Thanks so much for saying that, Mia. Wonderful. All right. So sign up for Photos That Don't Suck. And we're going to say that in the call many times because that's the people we are. And Rainey and I were talking about titles and she was like, I just love it that we get to work together and title things like Photos That Don't Suck because we're fun. All right. What's next? Oh, if you want to talk to either of us as the sponsors of this call, just grab some time with us. We're always happy to chat about what's going on in your museum, give you ideas. We're always like value first type people. We're happy to chat for 30 minutes and just see what's going on in your museum and give you some advice. So feel free to grab some time with us. Rainey went ahead and put our contact information in there. Two more things. Oh, you guys are hanging on so good. Thank you so much. I run a workshop series also kind of like reiterating some of the things that I talked about that I'm going to be presenting on at ACM. I have 2 workshops coming up. Wonder Makers, it's all about museum engagement and those 3 essential steps to make museum engagement super powerful and impactful. And then I have a second workshop called Wonder Why. There's one coming up later this month. It's all about the science of play and finding education in your exhibits. So any staff member can be an educator at any level. And this is how we're going to do it in empowering those people to know that they can be teachers without a degree. They can find education and put on those educator eyes when they're interacting with people on the floor. So those 2 are coming up. Just go to my website. You can sign up for them. It's amazing. Inspired-impact.com. All right. And then Rainey's got one for you too. No, you don't.
Stay tuned for next month. I will
Next
have
month. Rainey does a really amazing workshop all about like marketing analysis that you can do for your entire organization. And you can get it all done in 5 days. So she does that workshop. It's coming up next month. If you're interested, just email her because she's a rock star. She's always got cool stuff in the works as well. All right, for intermission, I'm going to take just like 1 minute and get a drink of water and a cough drop because life is happening over here. Take a minute and then we'll come right back for Q&A and things like that. All righty? Awesome. If you have to jump now, you can, but I'm telling you, you're going to miss the best part because we love having the Q&A section. All right, I'm going to go and grab a cough drop.
See you in 1 minute.
All right, friends, hopefully everybody had the opportunity to go and get a little beverage, or just for all of us introverts, have a time to take a deep breath after all of that chatting. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's talk. Who has questions? It can be about this topic that we talked about today, shining star examples of community partnerships, questions, activating the hive mind. Go ahead and just take yourself off of mute, or you can raise your hand, either one. And we're just going to answer some questions here while I give access to all the documents.
Hi, everybody. I'm Luann Greenwald. I'm the Deputy Director at the Zimmerly Art Museum at Rutgers. And I just wondered if anybody would share examples of how you increased your marketing impact through partnerships. Beth had thrown out the example of the Access Pass at local libraries, which I think is great. But I'm wondering about what other sorts of examples people might share.
Good question. Good question. I know one example that I have too is, at those festivals that we've gone to, a lot of times they will have marketing opportunities that they give out flyers ahead of time and your logo is on them and different things like that. We've also, at my old museum, we did a couple like sponsorships and different things where t-shirts were made, and then our logos were on the back of the t-shirts. All of those examples that I've had are more like brand recognition marketing examples. But who else has examples? We can help a friend out, right?
I was just wondering too, if anybody has any disasters they could talk about too. Just
Mhm.
maybe not disasters, learning experiences, I guess, would be another way to put that.
Nobody today. Everybody's here to receive information.
I can give an example of a partnership that has worked out quite well. And it kind of harkens back to what you were talking about, Beth, with field trips. We wrote a grant to cover some field trips, but we took it a step forward and worked with our Rotary group, who typically gives a book to first graders in our school district. And they work with our Title I schools, so schools that are receiving additional funding to support the lower socioeconomic status students. So we reached out to them, and I offered them the museum space instead of them just going into the school to give out the book. They're not paying me to do this, but I wrote a grant to cover some of those costs. So I'm able to get, I'm also giving all those children, and it's like 400, a little over 400 kiddos, a free field trip. And I'm giving them passes to come back to the museum this summer for our summer reading program. And that was another grant I wrote. So while I did a lot of legwork to get these two grants to cover those costs, the Rotary paid for the books and are bringing volunteers that have never been in our space before in to volunteer for that program. And then one of our programming partners who we pay to come into our space, they are hosting a program for these kiddos. So we're doing a full day of field trips, but we're breaking them up by 100 kids at a time. And the Rotary group wrote the grant for the transportation. So we are able to do this at no cost to us, but we're partnering with the school district, 5 schools. I wrote a grant. The passes cover another school that we had invited but was not able to participate. That's a separate story. So they get passes as well. And then the kiddos come into the space, they play, then they swap with the other group. So 50 on the floor playing, 50 in the classroom doing the take home activity, which is about health and wellness. So I'm bringing together a whole bunch of different community partners, and it's costing us nothing. It's just grant writing and marketing and reaching 400 parents, or maybe even more, 400 caregivers or more. And we're doing that for one day in May. And so it's kind of a win. It's a win-win-win-win for everyone. So that's an example of something that we've done that is a little bit beyond that marketing umbrella too for benefits.
And I love that example because it also highlights how you don't have to do all the legwork. Like every museum professional has a full plate, and adding extra things onto that already full plate can make it quite cumbersome. But knowing that your partnership with the Rotary enabled the Rotary to write the grant that then pays you. So again, you're still getting the financial benefit of the partnership, but you don't even have to write the grant. How amazing is that? Fantastic. Take that. Well done, Heather. It's good to see you, my friend. Awesome. Mia, give us an example. And in the interim, I'm going to go ahead and post that community partnership agreement again, so it should be available for everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. That's going to be so helpful. I was really excited to see that. I'm really big on partnerships between museums. So partnering with other museums, we've done that with the Betty Brinn Children's Museum. We've actually had them come here and make the space more welcoming to children. America's Black Holocaust Museum is the museum I'm from, so that can be kind of intimidating for younger kids. But so to do some programming around Juneteenth and make it seem inviting with Betty Brinn's seal of approval was really helpful. We have a great partnership with the Jewish Museum Milwaukee. And so kids go there first, students go there first, learn about anti-Semitism. They do a social emotional learning workshop in between, and then they come to America's Black Holocaust Museum and learn about anti-Black racism. So it's a really deep, meaningful partnership, which with our 2 missions together makes that more nuanced understanding happen. And then we also partner with the Milwaukee Repertory Theater to train our griots and our docents. So like the public speaking, the blocking, how do you work a space? How do you use your hands? How do you gesture? How do you tell a good story? And so that's a really, really cool partnership that I'm really excited about.
Oh, I love that. As much as I don't want to say I love it because I do training for guest interaction, I love the fact that you found a way locally to get that task done. And not only is it benefiting your visitors, but also it's bringing this amazing confidence and empowerment to your staff to know that you're investing in them with some extra training and high level training too. It's not just their boss saying, hey guys, we need to do more of this, but these are trained actors and trained thespians that have proven techniques over the course of time. And that's even like our session we're doing, it's all really improv, but nobody likes to use the word improv. So you boil it down to like all the techniques that are involved in improv, and that becomes kind of the framework for your training and how people interact. So, oh, what a great partnership, Mia. I love that. And I was just in Milwaukee. Why didn't I come by, right? I'm a Wisconsin girl at heart, grew up there and just went back and did a bunch of work in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So it was so fun. Heather, you raised your hand. Give us some more enlightenment.
Well, I have a question when we're ready to move off of this topic, a different one that I wanted to ask the group. Is it
Yes,
appropriate to
we
do
would
that
love it.
now?
Yes, go for it.
I'm wondering if anyone has a formula. What we do when we have community partnerships, and we love them and we participate in a lot of them, but we go through the 5 questions that you presented today. But what we don't have a good formula for, it's always case by case, is who comes into which programming partner comes into the museum for free? Who do we pay for their services for? Like, who do we pay? And then who do we charge as a sponsorship to run a program for? So that balance is a difficult one for us. I'm wondering if it's a challenge for others, and if anyone has any success stories they'd want to share.
Oh, that's a really good question, Heather. And I think, my immediate answer is it's case by case. But it's a good question to ask of like, is there anybody out there that has a framework or some sort of rubric even that says, let's weigh all these different answers to these questions. And if it's a yes, no, maybe, this qualifies you to pay or not pay and different things like that. Lindsay, you came off mute. You got a good answer?
Hi, I am the community engagement manager at the Children's Museum of the Upstate in Greenville. We have a similar, kind of issue as well. I don't have much to offer other than typically how we have broken it up is any kind of paid, we call them takeover, goes through the development team. So all of that always starts with the development team, and they come to us and say, we've got BMW or whoever it may be wants to do a takeover in this space, and they kind of start that conversation. And that has been really helpful for us because then the people who are used to, tucking the money and all of that handle that conversation. Anybody who comes to me, we typically, if it's like a mom and pop or a local business, is when we'll try and have some flexibility. And it's really rare that we pay somebody for their service. So typically we'll offer a membership or try and get them to work with us in a different capacity. Maybe it's through branding. We typically will say, your brand will go out to X amount of constituents via email, things of that sort. So those are the only, things that came up as you were mentioning it, but you were not alone in the struggle of trying to figure out what that looks like and if it really has to be case by case.
Yeah, I think that's part of it is commiserating and saying, you're not alone, and also knowing too, Lindsay, like you said, is when those outside partners who are willing to give money come in, it's also that delicate departmental collaboration too of like,
Right.
want the development department just to glom onto them because they're shaking a check in their face.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to work out for the education department. Like, please
Right.
do not promise them something that we cannot do. Do not
Sure.
promise that they can just, again, using your word, take over our space and bring their own educators in. And what are they actually going to teach? And
Yeah,
is it
we've
focused? Like,
we've run into that too. It's the we have a hard time getting the people who are going to give us a big check to actually care about what they're doing, and the people who are here and volunteering their time, usually their content is so much better. So that's a secondary layer of all of it.
mhm. And I know that there's going to be some philosophical butting of heads of sorts if a nonprofit is asking another nonprofit to pay them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a conversation that has to happen too, of like, if we're both nonprofits, we're both trying to stay alive over here, and we both want to have this really great, equally beneficial partnership, but how can we make that happen with trade? Like my team was highly sought after for certain opportunities or classes and things like that. And other organizations would say like, hey, can we do this with you? Or, oh, we totally want you to come to our festival because you always bring the best stuff and you're shooting rockets across the parking lot and, things like that, like all the really great fun stuff. And we would always say, oh, we would love to. Can you come to our Founders Day event? We'll come to you for Earth Day if you guys will come to us for Founders Day. We'll send along a whole crew to do this or that, but then we want to make sure that you're going to bring your adventure bus to summer camp for 3 weeks in a row. Things like that. So I think too that finding that balance of if I'm gonna scratch your back, I want you to scratch my back somehow. That's good. That's a really good example. All right, more questions. We have 6 minutes. This topic, another topic.
I have a question, and it's kind of still on this topic. I have an accessory brand where our mission is to preserve the stories and techniques of Africa and the African diaspora through fashion. And about 2 years ago, we started the Artisan Workshop, where we bring in artisans from the diaspora to host different workshops. And I worked with Mocha in North Miami twice on 2 workshops with an artisan from Haiti and another one from the Bahamas. And this summer, I really want to focus on more workshops, specifically with the youth and the elderly. And I want to know what are you guys looking for when it comes to partnerships? What is the best way for me to get into more museums and partner with museums on workshops?
Good question. I have thoughts. Does anybody else want to give their thoughts first? Because I talk a lot. Anybody?
I would just say, finding museums whose exhibition programs or collections align with the sorts of artists that you'd be bringing in, that would be an important factor for us.
And I also think that just being extremely mindful that you're asking a nonprofit to give of their space, their audience, their advertising, things like that, though you may be a for-profit organization that are, offering these workshops for exposure for your artisans and things like that, it would absolutely behoove you to find a way to fund it that's not asking the museum to fund it. I'm still very much in the nonprofit mindset of like, we all want everything for free. But, for you, Keisha, to weigh the benefit of saying, can I take this on as an expense for me to benefit my marketing and my artisans? Or can I find other ways to fund this, in that sense? Or can I partner with the museum so that the workshop is a $30 workshop where they make something fun and we can split that cost and I can give part of those benefits back to the museum. So again, it's an equally beneficial partnership. So that's kind of the thought process I had when you asked the question. Anybody else have feedback or thoughts? I think it would be a really cool partnership to have, and knowing that you've already done it at a couple museums or at a museum in Miami, that's great. Having like real people doing real things, not only is it just awareness, but it's this really cool career exploration opportunity for all those little folks to say like, wow, I could be a bag maker someday. Ooh, I could make really cool clothes someday. That's a job, So I think that's so cool. Really great.
So much. Thank you.
All right. We have time for one more question. Comment, question, anything.
Or tell us what future topics you would like us to talk about.
Good suggestion. I love that.
Rainey, can you give a preview of what your marketing analysis workshop looks like?
Yeah, so basically it is 5 days in under an hour a day. So it's basically an hour and a half workshop to walk you through how in 5 days you can significantly elevate your marketing. So for instance, you can, we sort of audit your Instagram and go through and say, okay, well, let's set up your highlights. So it's sort of like a mini website. We go through your website itself and kind of talk about if a newbie were to be on your website, would they be able to find what they're looking for? And I'm completely spacing what the other steps are right now because it's been a minute since I looked at it, but it's really, it's just the simple things, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's not like this big thing that would take you 10 hours a day to fix or something like that. So it probably will be a fairly a small group, and it will be a very hands-on thing. So we can put up your website, for instance, and say, oh, I noticed that, you know, this is missing. And so maybe you could add that. And so again, these little things that will just create clarity and make it easier for people to find what they're looking for. So I hope that's helpful, and we'll keep marketing that and throwing that out there. I don't think it's next month that I'm doing it, but it's going to be the following month. So.
And I think that
Right.
is like the beauty of the Cold Eyes review
Mhm.
that is coming from a professional that has decades of experience in a field. And just, you know, like I mentioned earlier too, is like I'm doing these exhibits evaluations for museums and everybody's loving them so much. Like to be able to have Rainey in the room to do this Cold Eyes review, so awesome. So awesome.
And I'm
Yeah.
pulling it up, and I'm so sorry. I just haven't looked at it for a minute. Oh, it talks a little bit about branding. So, you know, say we're not going to redo all of your branding, but maybe there's just little ways that we can tweak it to make it look a lot more cohesive. We talk about content planning as well as audience engagement. So, you know, ways to actually interact with your audience online instead of just kind of throwing things out there and talking at them, you know, to really get them, you know, involved. So thank you for asking. And yeah, I'm really excited to offer this. So.
It's so good. It's so good. It's a great workshop. Both of us love doing these little workshops that just kind of throw some good information out, but they're at a price point that most museums can afford. And they're just, you know, powerful frameworks that then you can go and put into place in your museum. So, well, good. Well, it is 3:00 at 3:01. We are so glad that you guys came today. Oh my goodness.
you.
We're going to send you an email tomorrow with all of this information that you got today,
Thank you,
along
Rose.
with links to register for next month and all of the goodness. So thank you again so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And I love seeing all my friends here. It's so good. All right. We will see you all next month. Thanks so much.
Bye.